Alright. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Late Night Tips. Tonight we're going to look into something that's technically impossible, which is importing MIDI into the Octatrack. So you cannot do it over USB, and there might be software that enables you to do that, but out of the box using Elektron solutions you can't do that. But if you need to import something complex, something difficult that will be very hard to input via the sequencer, you might want to use a little hack, and namely use a DAW and send the MIDI file into the Octatrack and record that into a given track. And we're going to see how it can be done. So let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, you need to have everything set up properly. I'm using a MIDI to USB to MIDI interface in here to connect into the Octatrack. I have my session set up correctly and I'm communicating on channel 10, which is the channel on which the Octatrack is receiving MIDI. When it comes to my Octatrack settings, I always set up the tempo manually to match. I know that later I'm going to sync it and there's not going to be a need for that, but I still always do that. Then I go to my MIDI settings in here and I sync and transport receive so that it responds to the play message from the DAW, and clock receive so that it gets the clock from the DAW. And in here we have so we can see that it fluctuates a little bit. I'm hearing that that's the property of Ableton clock, that it floats a little, but it's synced right now. So what I want to do first is import a couple of chords into the Octatrack, and let's see the chords. Okay, so as you can hear, those are 8 bars instead of the standard 4 bars. So first of all, I need to get it ready for this. So right now I have only 4 bars. What I want to do is I want to change the subdivision in here into half. But in order for this to take effect and record 8 bars, I need to set this up, the master, to 128 so that it allows the halftime to be in effect. Why don't we try and record the first thing, which is going to be a simple pad that I would like to trigger of the Monomachine. So I have my MIDI track in here set up properly. Track 3 on the Elektron, sending directly to the mono. Oh, here we go. You notice that it didn't play the first note. I have no idea why this happens in here, because if I change the synthesizer to the Moog, it's going to start immediately. But I'm just going to have to go around. I don't know what that is. The notes are perfectly set up in Ableton. Some weird quirk in the system. So what I do, I have it set up for recording and I press live recording, which is record and play together. And now I'm waiting for the start signal from the DAW transport signal. All right, it records. Beautiful, and I'm gonna let it go around. All right, it worked now. Okay, I'm muting the MIDI, and now the track is playing, so this worked. Yeah. All right, so we have this one under control, fully under control. That's very nice. So that was simple, that worked out. Now let's look into something a little bit more complex and maybe analyze some of the issues you might be having while using this technique. So let me show you the bass that I also want to record. Alright, so this was designed for a monophonic instrument with glide. So this should work perfectly on the Moog. Let's hear it. I have the glide set up pretty high. Yeah, not that high. If you stop the DAW, sometimes it might stop at a random place and then resume play. So at a random place, and it might not get it fully right. So it's good to click stop twice to reset the clock on this. So let's try and record that. Here we go. We're ready for the signal. Okay, let's see if this worked. Okay, this didn't work. This didn't record properly. And why is that? The reason is very, very simple. You can look into here that the notes are overlapping. And the Octatrack cannot process this because every trig is a separate information. So if you have a note being held from a previous trig, this trig is going to cancel that. So keep that in mind whenever you're creating a MIDI sequence that could work in Ableton, for example. It will not work on the Octatrack if the notes are recording. The same with those chords. If you did, for example, if you wanted to keep those two notes like that, this wouldn't work. You have to retrigger all the notes that you want to play each and every time. It's a bit of a drawback of this. Another problem with that, you'll notice that the rhythm didn't work properly, but we're going to get into it in a second. So what you have to do in this particular context is you need to split. So I have my bass line and then my other notes. So if you want to take advantage of the glide notes. All right, so let's see. Okay, maybe I stopped a little bit too soon, so this we didn't quite get this right. So I'm going to make it, let's go in infinity. So I'm going to set up the second track to receive the second part and then send it to the same synthesizer on channel 10, and this way I'm going to achieve the legato effect. Sounds good? Okay, so let's hear it. Let's hear if this worked. So you can clearly hear that it did not catch the triplets in here. Why is that? Because I've set the resolution to half, so it couldn't catch those things properly. And the solution obviously would be to record each half of the pattern with normal resolution and then chain the patterns. That's one solution. The second solution you can always experiment with is switch quantization off. And if your latency is low enough on the MIDI interface, this should work. Let's see. Let's hear it. All right, sounds pretty cool. So in this particular situation, this worked out. Might not always work out, so you have to find alternative solutions, maybe create two shorter patterns with higher resolution so that this works. So that's it. That's how you import MIDI into the Octatrack. So there are a couple of quirks, obviously, so you need to pay attention to the resolution, pay attention to the channel, pay attention to the notes, that they're separate, and the retriggering of the notes, but it can be done, and it's especially helpful for very complex rhythmical patterns that is really hard to recreate on the Octatrack. Thank you very much for watching this one. Make sure to subscribe to this channel to get more tutorials and more jams. If you have any questions regarding the Octatrack or any other of the gear in here, feel free to drop them in the comments. It usually takes me some time to get those tutorials to you, but I will definitely do that. Thank you for watching. Take care.